It's the calm before the storm as the spring session of Ontario's provincial legislature is set to begin tomorrow. The fall session was quite spirited, to say the least. Doug Ford and his Conservatives came out swinging right from the start. So will this session be any different? And joining us now on this family day to talk about the start of the new session is pollster and public affairs expert John Wright. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Great to be with you.
And taking time away from your family to chat with us. So let's talk about what do you see as dominating the legislature in this upcoming session?
Well, it's certainly not going to be any quieter than the last time. In fact, you've got health care, which is going to come forward. The Premier had put together a committee. And it's actually made up of not just Conservatives. There's some NDP and Liberal healthcare professionals who are on that. They're going to come through with a recommendation on what to do about the structure of healthcare and where it's going to be going. You know, and as soon as you touch healthcare, it becomes really, really big politically and publicly because you've got unions involved as well. So the first thing is that they're likely to advocate the dismantlement of a layer of bureaucracy, as they call it, between the healthcare ministry and the communities. Next up, you've got education. Oh, my goodness. I mean, you're talking about reducing, changing the nature of what the classroom looks like, where you're, in fact, going to maybe add a couple of more students to the ratio that teachers are dealing with. But also, you're going to reduce the nature of certain kinds of people in the classroom, where they've suggested that we're going to be dealing with early childhood educators instead of teachers to deal with, you know, all-day kindergarten.
A lot of big question marks still on that because they're saying we're just looking at it right now. Nothing's off the table just yet and no decisions just yet.
Right, but they're going to come forward with something dealing with that likely in this session, and so that again is going to touch the union side. There's, you know, a lot of commentary on that. But the big centerpiece of it is going to be the budget. And the budget that Vic Fedeli is going to bring in is, you know, for the first time, they are legislated to articulate when they believe they're going to reduce the deficit that they have. And up to this point, they haven't been able to, you know, focus on, for most of us, you know, what that's going to be because they've got the freedom not to. But that's going to come very, very quickly. Now,
speaking of budget, one of the things that they've received some criticism for is stretching that budget for families with children with autism.
Right.
And they say they want to remove that backlog of the massive wait list, but the result is spreading that budget around means more people get less money. How do you see them kind of turning this around because they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place?
Well, I'm not sure how they're going to turn it around, mainly because you have a lot of parents very passionate about the real circumstances for their children. We've seen some of that impact on the minister herself. And I don't think it's going to abate. I mean, we're into a situation in the next couple of weeks where it could be healthcare, education, and autism, which bring out everybody from the unions to public sympathy, and it's going to be focused on the legislature. So it's going to be anything but quiet down there and anything but off-putting to a lot of the protests that could be there.
Okay, finally, John, you're a pollster. It's something you've been doing for decades. Talk to us about what the polls are saying about Doug Ford and the provincial Conservatives.
One of the only poll that's been out recently is by Innovation Research. It's a great company. Greg Lyle runs it, and he's got the Conservatives behind the Liberals now. And we saw that. What happened was, as soon as Kathleen Wynne was out of the picture and the Liberals were leaderless, they went from 19 to about 28% of the polls. They're now leading the Conservatives, with the Conservatives down around 32% in his polling, and the NDP below that. So it's kind of a return to what normally you have in the polling structure. The one thing that's happening, of course, is that Doug Ford has stuck to his core group of people who brought him there, and the middle ground, who also pushed him over because they didn't like the Liberals, in fact, have moved back to the Liberal Party. And so, you know, going through the next couple of years, they've got a lot of tough decisions to make, and they're not going to worry about that middle ground until they have to. So right now, the Liberals, who are leaderless, may be out in front of the Tories, but we don't know what's going to happen within the next 2 years to have the ultimate contest at the polls.
It'll be interesting to watch. If the fall session was any indication, we'll have to wait and see what the spring session brings for us. Thanks so much for being with us.
Pleasure.